The house was silent, too silent. Sophia sat alone on the couch, clutching her phone like a lifeline. Her parents had left town for the weekend, and she'd been looking forward to a quiet night at home. But now, as the clock struck midnight, something felt wrong. A faint creak echoed from upstairs. She froze, her heart pounding. "It's just the house settling," she whispered to herself, though her trembling voice betrayed her fear. Then came the whisper, soft, almost inaudible, but unmistakably real. "You're not alone." Sophia's breath hitched. She turned toward the staircase, where shadows danced eerily in the dim light of the hallway, and then she saw a figure standing at the top of the stairs, watching her. Sophia blinked hard, trying to convince herself it was just her imagination, playing tricks on her. When she opened her eyes again, the figure was gone. She let out a shaky breath, but the relief was short-lived. Another sound followed, a slow, deliberate footstep coming from the upper floor. Her mind raced. Was someone in the house? Had she forgotten to lock the doors? Grabbing a flashlight from the side table, Sophia stood up cautiously. The beam of light trembled in her hand as she took a step toward the staircase. "Hello?" she called out, her voice cracking under the weight of her fear. No response. Only silence and the faint rustling of curtains in the living room behind her. As Sophia hesitated at the base of the stairs, memories flooded back unbidden. This wasn't the first time she'd felt this way. When she was younger, strange things used to happen in their old house. Doors would open by themselves, whispers would drift through empty rooms, and once, she swore she saw a shadowy figure standing over her bed. Her parents dismissed it as an overactive imagination, but Sophia always knew better. They moved to this new house 3 years ago, hoping for a fresh start. For a while, everything seemed normal. Until tonight, the realization hit her like a punch. To the gut, whatever had haunted her before, it had found her again. Summoning every ounce of courage, Sophia climbed the stairs one step at a time, each creak beneath her feet making her flinch. At the top, she paused, shining the flashlight down the narrow hallway. All the doors were closed. One by one, she pushed them open, finding nothing but empty rooms. But when she reached the last door, the one leading to the attic, a cold breeze brushed against her face. The attic door was slightly ajar. Her hands trembled as she pushed it open wider. Inside, the air was icy, and the faint scent of earth filled her nostrils. Boxes stacked haphazardly cast long, distorted shadows in the beam of her flashlight. And then she saw it, a small wooden box sitting in the middle of the floor. Its lid cracked open. Inside lay a single Polaroid photograph. It showed a young girl sitting on the same couch Sophia had been on earlier. The caption scrawled on the back read, "I've been waiting for you." Before Sophia could react, the attic door slammed shut behind her. Panic surged through Sophia as she yanked at the doorknob, but it wouldn't budge. The flashlight flickered, casting erratic shadows across the walls. Then came the voice again, louder this time, closer. "You shouldn't have come here." From the corner of the room, a shadow began to move, not toward her, but through her. Photograph fell from her hand, fluttering to the ground. As the flashlight died completely, plunging her into darkness, Sophia realized the truth. She wasn't being hunted, she was already trapped. Darkness pressed in around Sophia as she fumbled blindly in the attic, her fingers scraping against rough wooden walls. The air was suffocating, thick with an unnatural cold that seeped into her bones. Then came the whispers again, this time louder, overlapping voices speaking in languages she didn't understand. They seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, at once echoing inside her skull. "Who are you?" she screamed, her voice cracking under the weight of her terror. No answer came, only a low, guttural laugh that sent shivers down her spine. Suddenly, a faint red glow illuminated one corner of the room. It pulsed rhythmically like a heartbeat. Drawn by some unseen force, Sophia crawled toward it, her hands trembling as she reached out. What she found made her blood run cold. The source of the glow was another box, a smaller, ornate chest carved, with intricate symbols that seemed to shift and writhe under her gaze. Its lid was slightly ajar, revealing a folded piece of paper inside. With shaking hands, Sophia unfolded it. It was a letter, written in jagged handwriting. To whoever finds this, if you can read these words, then you've already been chosen. You think you're running from something, but you're not. You're being pulled back to me. Don't fight it. There's no escape. The signature at the bottom was smudged, unreadable, but beneath it was a crude drawing of a house. Her house. Sophia's breath hitched as realization dawned. Whoever or whatever was haunting her had known her all along. Before she could process further, the attic door creaked open behind her. Light spilled in from the hallway, but it wasn't comforting. It felt wrong, too bright, almost blinding. Sophia? A familiar voice called softly. Her heart skipped a beat. That voice. It couldn't be. She turned slowly, her flashlight illuminating the figure standing in the doorway. It was her mother, but her mother was supposed to be miles away, staying at a hotel for the weekend. Mom? Sophia whispered, her voice barely audible. What are you doing here? Her mother smiled warmly, stepping closer. I forgot my scarf, she said gently. Are you okay? You look pale. For a moment, Sophia wanted to believe it was really her. But something about the way her mother moved, the stiffness in her posture, the unnatural stillness of her eyes felt off. You left hours ago, Sophia stammered, backing away. You can't be here. Her mother tilted her head, her smile widening unnaturally. Oh, sweetheart, she said, her voice dropping to a chilling monotone. I never left. The light behind her flickered, casting eerie shadows across the walls. When Sophia blinked, the figure in the doorway wasn't her mother anymore. It was the same shadowy figure she'd seen earlier on the stairs, and it was walking toward her. Sophia scrambled backward, clutching the letter tightly in her hand. Her mind raced as fragments of memories resurfaced, things she'd buried deep inside. When they moved to this house 3 years ago, her parents hadn't told her everything. She remembered overhearing them arguing late one night, their voices hushed but tense. We should have told her, her father had said. She deserves to know. No, her mother replied sharply. It's better if she forgets. Forgets what? Now staring at the shadowy figure advancing toward her, Sophia finally understood. This house wasn't just haunted, it was built on secrets. Secrets her family had tried desperately to hide. The figure stopped inches away from her, its form shifting between human and monstrous. Then it spoke, not with words, but directly into her mind. Do you remember me? Images flooded her vision. A little girl playing in the backyard, laughing as someone watched her from the window. A man kneeling beside her, whispering promises. She couldn't quite hear. And then a scream. Blood. Darkness. Sophia gasped, clutching her head as the memories overwhelmed her. It's me, the figure rasped, its voice dripping with malice. Your uncle, Uncle Daniel. The name hit her like a freight train. He'd disappeared when she was 6 years old, presumed dead after a hiking accident. Or so her parents had told her, but now staring at the twisted, shadowy version of him standing before her, Sophia realized the truth. He hadn't died. Something far worse had happened to him. What did you do to me? She demanded, her voice shaking. Daniel's grin widened, revealing rows of jagged teeth. I didn't do anything, he hissed. This is all your fault. Before she could respond, the floor beneath her gave way with a deafening crack. Sophia plummeted through darkness, landing hard on a cold, damp surface. When she opened her eyes, she found herself in a basement she didn't recognize. The walls were lined with shelves filled with jars containing strange, floating objects. In the center of the room stood a large mirror, its surface cracked and fogged. As Sophia approached it cautiously, her reflection stared back at her butt. It wasn't alone. Standing behind her in the glass was Uncle Daniel, his face contorted with rage. "You shouldn't have come back," he growled, his voice echoing around her dot, and then the mirror began to bleed. The mirror bled crimson, its cracks spreading like veins across the glass. Sophia stumbled backward, her breath catching in her throat as the liquid pooled at her feet. Warm and unnervingly real. "Stay away from it." Uncle Daniel's voice growled behind her. She spun around, but he wasn't there. Instead, his distorted reflection loomed larger in the mirror, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly intensity. "What do you want from me?" Sophia demanded, her voice trembling. Daniel's lips curled into a cruel smile. "You already know," he whispered, his voice reverberating through the room. "You've always known." Before she could react, the mirror's surface rippled like water, and then something reached out, grabbing her wrist with an icy grip. Sophia screamed, trying to pull free, but the force holding her was unrelenting. The mirror's surface shimmered, pulling her closer despite her struggles. "No!" she cried, clawing at the edges of the frame, but the mirror didn't release her. Instead, it began dragging her consciousness inward, flooding her mind with fragmented memories, not her own, but someone else's. She saw flashes of a life she didn't recognize. A young man working late nights in a dimly lit study, crafting strange symbols on parchment. A woman pleading with him to stop, her face pale with fear. And finally, a ritual gone wrong. Blood spilled across the floor as shadows consumed everything in sight. When the visions faded, Sophia found herself standing in a different room entirely. This wasn't the basement anymore. It was a small, cluttered study filled with books, candles, and strange artifacts. On the desk lay an open journal, its pages covered in frantic handwriting. Her uncle's journal. Sophia picked up the journal, her hands shaking as she scanned the pages. The entries detailed Daniel's descent into obsession, his attempts to contact spirits, uncover hidden truths, and unlock powers beyond human comprehension. One passage stood out. "I've done it. I've opened the door, but they're not what I expected. They hunger, and they won't let me leave." Below the text was a crude sketch of the same mirror that had pulled her into this nightmare. Beneath it, scrawled hastily, "If anyone finds this, destroy the mirror. Don't look inside, it will take you too." Sophia's heart pounded as she realized the horrifying truth. The mirror wasn't just haunted, it was a gateway. A prison for whatever entities Daniel had unleashed. And now, she was trapped with them. As Sophia turned to leave the study, the door slammed shut. She yanked at the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Behind her, the mirror began to hum softly, its surface rippling once more. Then came the voices, dozens of them, whispering in unison. "Join us." Panic surged through her as shadowy figures emerged from the corners of the room, their forms shifting and writhing like smoke. But one figure stood apart from the rest, a woman, her face eerily familiar. "Mom?" Sophia gasped, stepping back instinctively. The woman smiled sadly, tears streaming down her translucent face. "I tried to warn you," she said softly, "but you didn't listen." Sophia's stomach churned. "What are you talking about? You're alive, you're supposed to be safe." Her mother shook her head. "I'm not real, not anymore. None of us are." The realization hit Sophia like a punch to the gut. Her family hadn't moved to escape the haunting, they'd been running from it. And now, because of her, they were all trapped here too. Sophia sank to her knees, overwhelmed by guilt and grief. "Why didn't you tell me?" she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "We thought we could protect you," her mother replied, her voice tinged with sorrow. "But Daniel's curse, it follows us, it always has." The shadows closed. In around them, their whispers growing louder, more insistent. "You have to break the cycle," her mother urged. "Destroy the mirror. Free us, all of us." "But how?" Sophia choked out. Her mother hesitated, then pointed to a dagger lying on the desk, the same one depicted in Daniel's sketches. "It's the only way," she said. "But you'll have to sacrifice yourself to do it." Before Sophia could respond, the mirror erupted in a blinding flash of light. When she opened her eyes again, she was back in the basement, but something was different. The mirror no longer bled. Instead, it glowed faintly, its surface smooth and inviting, and reflected in the glass was her own face, but twisted, monstrous with glowing red eyes. A low laugh echoed in her mind. "Welcome home." Behind her, the shadowy figures began to advance, their whispers merging into a single deafening roar. "It's your turn now." Sophia stared at her reflection in the mirror, her monstrous visage glaring back at her with glowing red eyes. Her breath hitched as she touched her face, half expecting to feel the rough texture of scales or claws, but her skin was still human. For now. The shadows behind her began to swirl faster, their whispers growing louder and more insistent. "You're one of us now." "No," Sophia shouted, clutching the dagger tightly in her hand. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. "Destroy the mirror, free us, all of us." But how could she destroy something that seemed alive? Something that had already begun to consume her? She turned away from the mirror, scanning the basement for anything that might help. On the shelves, she spotted jars filled with strange objects: fingers, teeth, locks of hair. Each jar bore a label written in jagged handwriting, names, dates, and brief descriptions of lives stolen by the mirror. Her stomach churned as she realized the truth. The mirror fed on suffering. It thrived on fear, guilt, and regret. And now, it was feeding on her. Sophia grabbed one of the jars, a small container holding a single strand of golden hair, and examined the label. Emma Carter, 1997. Betrayed by family, consumed by guilt. The name sent a chill down her spine. Emma Carter. Wasn't that the girl in the Polaroid photo she'd found in the attic? Memories flooded back unbidden, the photograph showing a young girl sitting alone on the couch. The caption scrawled on the back, "I've been waiting for you." Emma had been here before. She'd faced the same choice Sophia now faced and lost. Sophia placed the jar back on the shelf, her hands trembling. If she didn't act soon, she would end up just like Emma, another victim trapped in the mirror's endless cycle of torment. But destroying the mirror meant sacrificing herself. Could she really do it? As Sophia hesitated, the mirror's surface rippled again. This time, instead of pulling her inward, it projected a vision, a memory she hadn't thought about in years. She was 6 years old, standing in the backyard of their old house. Uncle Daniel knelt beside her, smiling warmly as he showed her a shiny silver coin. "This is magic," he whispered conspiratorially. "It can make all your wishes come true." Young Sophia giggled, reaching for the coin, but then her laughter turned to screams as blood erupted from Daniel's chest. His body crumpled to the ground, lifeless, and the coin slipped from his fingers. Landing at her feet. Behind him stood her father, holding a gun. "No," Sophia whispered, tears streaming down her face as the memory faded. "Dad, what did you do?" The pieces clicked into place. Her parents hadn't moved to escape the haunting. They'd been running from the truth. They'd killed Daniel to stop him, but in doing so, they'd unleashed something far worse. Before Sophia could process the revelation, the mirror spoke not in Daniel's voice, but in her father's. "You think you understand, but you don't. Destroying me won't save anyone, it'll only make things worse." Sophia froze, turning back to the mirror. Reflected, there was no longer her monstrous self, but her father, his face pale and haunted. "Dad?" she whispered, her voice cracking. "I tried to protect you," he said softly, "but I failed. The mirror, it feeds on pain. Every death makes it stronger. If you destroy it, you'll become its new host. You'll be trapped forever." Sophia shook her head, refusing to believe him. Then what am I supposed to do? Just let it win? Her father hesitated, then nodded grimly. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find who you really are. With that, his reflection vanished, leaving Sophia alone once more. Sophia sank to her knees, overwhelmed by the weight of her choices. She thought about her family, the secrets they'd kept, the lies they'd told, the sacrifices they'd made, all to protect her. And now it was her turn to make a sacrifice. Clutching the dagger tightly, she rose to her feet. The shadows closed in around her, their whispers merging into a deafening roar. Do it. End it. But Sophia hesitated. Was this truly the only way? Or was the mirror manipulating her, playing on her fears and doubts? She glanced at the jars lining the shelves, each one containing a piece of someone's soul. If she destroyed the mirror, would those souls be freed or trapped inside her? Her mind raced as she weighed the consequences. Finally, she made her decision. Raising the dagger high above her head, Sophia plunged it into the mirror's surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the glass cracked, splitting into thousands of shards that exploded outward in a blinding flash of light. When the light faded, Sophia found herself standing in an unfamiliar room, a vast empty space bathed in dim green light. Around her floated countless figures, their faces blurred and distorted. One figure stepped forward, clearer than the rest. It was Emma, the girl from the Polaroid. You did it, Emma said softly, her voice tinged with awe. You broke the cycle. But before Sophia could respond, the ground beneath her began to tremble. From the shadows emerged a towering figure, Uncle Daniel, his form impossibly large and monstrous. You think this ends here? He roared, his voice shaking the very air. You've only awakened something far worse. Uncle Daniel loomed over Sophia, his monstrous form casting an oppressive shadow across the eerie green void. His eyes burned with rage, but beneath the anger was something else. Pain. You shouldn't have done this, he growled, his voice reverberating like thunder. You've unleashed something you can't control. Sophia gripped the dagger tightly, her hands trembling. She had destroyed the mirror, freed the trapped souls, but at what cost? What do you mean? She demanded, her voice shaking. Daniel didn't answer. Instead, he raised a clawed hand, and the ground beneath her began to crack. The floating figures around them, the souls of those who had been consumed by the mirror, cried out in terror as they were pulled toward him. No! Emma shouted, lunging forward to grab Sophia's arm. You have to stop him. But how? Sophia cried. I already broke the mirror. Emma shook her head urgently. The mirror was just a prison. He's the source, the curse itself. If you don't destroy him, everything starts again. Sophia's mind raced as she processed Emma's words. Uncle Daniel wasn't just a victim of the mirror, he was the mirror. His obsession with forbidden knowledge, his failed ritual, it had transformed him into something far worse. And now, he was free. Why are you doing this? Sophia screamed, tears streaming down her face. You're my family. Daniel paused, his expression softening for a brief moment. I tried to protect you, he said quietly. But the hunger, it never stops. It consumes everything. His form shifted back and forth between human and monstrous, as if he couldn't fully control it anymore. Sophia felt a pang of pity, but also resolved. She couldn't let him continue like this. Not when so many lives depended on stopping him. As Daniel advanced, flashes of memory flooded Sophia's mind, things she hadn't realized before. She saw her parents arguing late, one night after Daniel's disappearance. Her father held the gun, trembling, while her mother begged him not to go through with it. We have to end this, her father had said, his voice heavy with guilt, before he hurts anyone else. But killing Daniel hadn't stopped the curse, it had only sealed it inside the mirror. And now, because of Sophia's actions, It was breaking free. Emma grabbed Sophia's shoulder, snapping her back to reality. "You need to use the dagger," she urged. "It's the only way to sever his connection to the curse." "But what happens to me?" Sophia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Emma hesitated, then looked away. "That's the price," she said softly. "Someone has to take his place." Sophia's breath hitched as the truth sank in. Destroying Daniel wouldn't just free the trapped souls. It would bind her to the curse instead. She would become the new host, the new prison. Her knees buckled under the weight of the realization. Was this what her parents had feared all along? That their sacrifices would lead to this moment? The trapped souls around her began to fade, their voices growing fainter as Daniel absorbed their energy. "There's no time left," Emma pleaded. "You have to decide." Sophia stared at the dagger in her hand, its blade gleaming faintly in the dim light. Then she glanced at Daniel, whose face twisted in agony as the curse consumed him further. "I'm sorry," she whispered, not to him, but to herself. With a surge of determination, she lunged forward, driving the dagger deep into Daniel's chest. For a moment, everything froze. The green void shimmered, the shadows dissipated, and the trapped souls vanished into the ether. Daniel staggered backward, clutching the dagger embedded in his chest. His monstrous form began to dissolve, crumbling into ash. "It's over," he rasped, his voice filled with both relief and sorrow. "Thank you." Then he was gone. Sophia collapsed to her knees, exhausted and overwhelmed. But as the void faded around her, she realized something was wrong. Her reflection appeared in the air before her, not as herself, but as the same monstrous visage she'd seen earlier in the mirror. The curse wasn't gone. It had simply transferred to her. As Sophia stood alone in the void, the whispers returned, softer now, almost comforting. "You did the right thing," Emma's voice echoed faintly. But Sophia knew the truth. She had sacrificed herself to save others, but at a great personal cost. In the distance, she saw a faint glimmer, a doorway leading back to the real world. Beyond it lay her family, waiting anxiously for her return. She hesitated, torn between stepping through and accepting her fate. Finally, she made her decision. When Sophia opened her eyes, she found herself sitting on the couch in her living room. Her parents rushed to her side, tears streaming down their faces. "Sophia," her mother cried, pulling her into a tight embrace. "We thought we'd lost you." But Sophia didn't respond. She could feel it, the curse lingering beneath her skin, waiting to awaken. Her father knelt beside her, his expression filled with guilt and regret. "We should have told you everything," he said softly. "Can you ever forgive us?" Sophia forced a smile, though her heart ached with the weight of her secret. "It's okay," she whispered. "We're together now." As her family embraced her, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the window. For a split second, her eyes glowed red, but no one else noticed. The end.